Welcome back. Been a while since I've done an update video on this. A lot has changed. Here we go. So, it's June 26th. It's like 100 degrees in the shop right now. It's after lunch sometime. But this is the Buggy. So there's a guy in California who's really interested in it. So I'm kind of jamming out on it fast I can because he wants it the week after July 4th to get shipped to him. So only thing left to do is I gotta make a shifter surround. I have to finish off the skid plate / crossmember. I'll show you that in a second. And other than that, it's ready to rock and roll. Oh, and I got front limit straps. Those get here tomorrow, just because the front drops out so much. Even the Tom Woods drive shaft, which is another thing we've got going on, in the front, binds right before full droop. So we'll just limit strap that just a little bit, and it won't be a problem. So here's what I've been doing today. So we've been working on the skid plate bracing / crossmember here. So this crossmember has been in there for a while. It's the same one that you could potentially future run a Trailgear double case on. Their, what do they call it thing? Whatever their transfer case is. It's like the trail crawler. I don't know. It's too hot. So FJ case could get moved back. Those bolt holes coincide with those bolt holes. And then the mount's still there and you can still get to it. But none of that matters. So what we have going on is we've welded in 4 or 5 1.5 inch 120 wall DOM tubes from frame here back to the frame that I've welded on for the crossmember. And then same thing on the other side, welded to frame back to my additional frame pieces there. And then the crossmember that I have made is welded over to the factory transmission crossmember / the lower link mount that has been beefed up. This thing is not stock anymore. While we're talking about that, I had to cut into it to clear the drive shaft. I've got it limited right now with some ratchet straps, so it does come a lot closer. At full droop, right before bind, the drive shaft's 1/8 inch from it, but it clears no problem in flex, and it has been plated under there even more. So that crossmember, while it does look like a factory crossmember, is super beefy now because obviously it's supporting links and a transmission / transfer case, but it's all gusseted up. What we have to do later, which I have to go to Trey's and get some plastic from him because he's got a big old sheet of plastic he's letting me use, is make the skid plate. So it's going to come down. It's all like that ultra high density polymer plastic. It's for skids. Going to come down whatever angle that was. Reference back many videos ago. It'll angle down, we'll break it. It'll come all the way over here, and then I'll have the tabs mounted right here. It'll skip the muffler because the muffler gets hot. Obviously, don't want to melt plastic. And then a new piece, second piece, will come down, break, and hit there. So that's what we got going on. That's done though. Was getting ready to steel it, but I still have more welding to do, and I'll do that in a day or two, so it'll be fine. But that is done, and then all that'll get painted up with the skid plate. I'll do a video for that getting made in a couple days. But the rest of the truck here, let me drop it down and show you what we have done. So, Tom Woods drive shafts. Boom. There you go. Made me a double cardon 1350 to rear 1410. This is at full droop, no limit. She spins, doesn't bind. Kind of crazy the amount of droop that has. So she's golden. We're not going to limit strap the rear. Next owner, if he feels like jumping it, he can limit strap it, but there's no need to limit strap the rear, especially for a crawler like this. if it were to come down real slow, yes, you are hanging off the coilovers, but there's an internal bump in these, and you really shouldn't. I mean, if you're picking that tire up off the ground, flexing, I mean, you've flipped the thing already. So not worried about the rear. We've also done brakes while I'm here. So stainless line to hard lines, stainless line, stainless all the way up to hard line all the way up. Turned out I had a bad master cylinder, had to swap it out for the Chevy Safari, GMC Safari van, the Astro van. That's the master cylinder and hydro boost it's running. So had to swap it out to a new one. Brakes work great now, actually really nice. It's still on the full 1-ton brakes, front and rear, and I have zero issues with the pedal. The pedal's actually super stiff, so yay. Up front, walk up here. Again, Tom's wood drive shaft. So I can rotate it around. Tom was drive shaft, not a double cardon up front here, just a 1350 U-joint conversion flange over to the Toyota factory transfer case flange. There we go, right there. And then lower guy here is a 1350 as well. 9 1/4 axle with a Chevy yoke, so it can run a 1350 and get rid of that CV joint style stuff. So it's rotating just fine, but also do have it ratchet strapped up about 2 inches higher than where it'll be limited to. But even then, front end super dropped out of the thing. What else have we done? Oh, we've got the steering working, obviously. That works great. Pinky on the wheel, sitting still. At idle, you can turn the wheels. There you go. Let me drop it down the rest of the way. We'll go over the body because it's been a while since we've made that. So, body's completely done now. Also need to recharge the shocks. I let all the nitrogen out when we were flexing it, but we have nitrogen tanks, so that's not a problem. I got to charge those. Bump stops are already charged. Got to charge the coilovers on all 4 corners, but the body is completely made. The hood is on now, so we've got the hood pins in all 4 corners. The hood still is sporting its dent from the original wreck that got me this Foreigner so cheap. Might as well keep that dent. I popped it out a good little bit, but it's a story. Original hood from the original 4Runner with the original front end damaged hood. So kind of cool. Carbon fiber wrap that we just had some scrap left over is not faring so well in the heat. Still original black. Plans were, so I had the grill powder coated just as a test white. Was gonna take the hood and get it powder coated white as well with all the panels, minus the roof. The roof I was gonna do black, but the new owner can do whatever he wants to with it, but it was originally supposed to be white because, I mean, these days all my vehicles are white, so that was that. So let's go walk around. So grill got done a year ago. Hood's mounted now. It's all happy with its hood pins, all 4 corners with the little NASCAR leashes on them. Panel there, big long panel. Almost tripped. Side panels are done. Back panel there is done. Nothing's changed with all that. Back panel's done. Gotta walk around these axles that are for another project coming up. Panel. Obviously another panel, and then the last panel had to do a little pass through because right there is the power steering, and that is just the AN fitting sticks out, so we had to have a little recess there. There you go. I was planning on putting a vent right here because the intake, if you can see it, is right behind it. But looking at air intake temperatures with the ultra gauge that's in the dash, we'll get to that in a second. Between this opening right here, this if you want to count it, and just other stuff, the air intake temperatures are not crazy. Had it idling yesterday, setting that gauge up, and it's probably 102, 105 in the shop, and intake temperatures were 120. I did have that big old fan blowing on it where it's at, so that's 12 feet away, plus that fan on it. So I'm happy with that. I mean, we could do vents, but what's the point? So there you go. Let's work our way over to the interior. Actually, before interior, let's pop the hood and show you under the hood. Under the hood, everything is plumbed under here. Oil cooler with 2 lines, all done. Going to and from the oil filter that has been remote relocated. Let's see if I can get under here. Has been remote relocated, as well as the oil filter conversion. Boom, there you go. Air compressor with the locker for the front because the rear has a spool. LexusV8.com fuse box. That entire fuse box is what runs this truck. It's that big. Got rid of that big factory thing for that. All the wiring and such. Nothing else real super crazy. Fuel, anything that got near anything hot or potentially hot is in the thermal sleeves. So those are the fuel return and supply. Back behind them are 2 steering lines going through the orbital under the dash. Again, everything's there, even the brake line, because it's kind of near the header that I've wrapped that lower section, is done. Including the return and the supply for the PSC reservoir. Those are done. Intakes hanging out right there with a little bracket. Again, brake line even on this side. Thermal wrapped. Well, that's all we got. So I will call that super simple, even though it's not. It's a super simple setup. It's essentially a factory motor with all the maintenance done to it, including a new starter, new intake manifold gaskets, new valve cover gaskets, exhaust manifold gaskets, obviously, because the new headers. But everything's easy to get to. Everything's easy to work on. Nothing's super crazy. It all works great. It honestly sits here and idles. So the way I've got it wired up, you have to manually turn on the radiator fans. It can sit here and idle, and it never overheats idling, which is kind of awesome. Still has the thermostat in it, so it still goes back to the big Chevy 1500 radiator that's twice as thick as the factory 400 radiator, and it's aluminum, with the thermostat running and this thing just soaking all that heat out of the water and pushing it out with the fans not running again. The 400 never gets above 210. That's the highest I've ever seen it, and I've had it sitting here running for 30 minutes just idling, monitoring it. And that's with the gauge on the dash and my snap-on gauge piggybacked into it. Even idling, it works perfect. So yeah, and then of course you turn the fans on and obviously no issues there. The thermostat does its job, radiator does its job, and then the hard plumbing as well kicks some heat out of it too. So with that, let me throw the hood back on it, and then we'll work our way to the inside now. The interior is finished off. The Corbeau Baja XP seats are in. The PRP 5.3 harnesses are in. They do expire this month, which I think you're good for a year after if you want to race, but for riding around, they're brand new out of the box. They're fine. Again, they're the 5.3 inch webbing, very big, very comfortable harnesses. Boom. That's done. Obviously the roof is done. And all the bolts bolted down everywhere. Interior. Start with the floor. So went with boat flooring. It is the stick-on style. Went with this camo pattern because it hides dirt very, very well. Did a little center right there just from noise. So this stuff's awesome. It is noise insulation, heat insulation, and also gives like a anti-slip grip on it. So I like it a lot. And then I don't think anything else changed. Switch Pro there. I still have to make the surround for this. I think what I'm gonna do is I've got a little bit of this left over. I think I'm gonna cover that shifter surround with that foam. And then speaking of which, the lockout, since it's not running factory Toyota stuff now, the shift lockout, when you put it in park to take it out of park, you have to push this button right here. So what I think I'm gonna do is disable that lockout. So I just leave it in neutral right now. That way I can just shift it. When I turn it off, it stays in neutral, doesn't go anywhere because it's on flat ground. But figured a way to how to either keep that button pressed down or disable the lockout so it can just be taken out of park whenever you want it to. Let's think here. Yep, so I'm thinking about taking that foam and just simply surrounding the shifter with the foam. That's a super simple way to do it. You can get to the fuses and everything back here. So main battery breaker, it comes from the battery up to it, and then the winch lockout as well. No reason to have the winch on if you're not using it. So easily reach. There's plenty of room behind the seat here. The transmission cooler is right there. It blows towards the rear, but in the winter, if you want to get your passenger warm, reverse the wires and it can blow on the passenger. Again, that whole side's done, and then the dash is now fixed off, or finished off too. So went with a different style. It's the same foam stuff, but different style. There's a little too much of that, so that kind of gives it a nice look. The Ultra Gauge there works great. It's plexiglass because the Ultra Gauge is not waterproof, so it's under this. This is water rain resistant, I guess you could say. And then there's a piece of Lexan right here that's riveted. The Ultra Gauge sits behind it, and then we have the 3 dummy gauges right there. Check engine light, battery, and oil warning light. Those are not wired in. The wires just simply go right there. These gauges were super cheap, so I bought 3 of them. They're taped. You can wire those up to the factory ECU, which is under here, and a waterproof Apache box if you want to. But the Ultra Gauge, how I've got it set up, which I'll show you that. Turn that breaker on, then turn your quick battery disconnect on. Ultra Gauge, look at that. Does its thing. It's probably gone to think for a second. And while we wait, while waiting on that to figure out its life, everything else is great. No rattles inside here when it's running. The fans, surprisingly are not very obnoxious. If you had 2 people riding here, you could hold a normal conversation. I think that's because they're pulling fans on the back side of the radiator. Oh, she's still scanning. Oh, I know what it wants. It wants ignition on. That's what it wants. So while that's doing that, let's walk around over here. So gauge is great. Seats are great. Plenty of headroom in here. So my fingers stacked up. Still plenty of room to go. The seat is set. That one's a fixed position. This one's set in the middle position. I'm like 5'8", 5'9", and honestly, the seat's a little too far back for me. So it can go back another 2 or 3 inches, I think is what it is. There she goes. She's figuring her life out. I've already set them up basic stuff just to monitor the stuff that I'm worried about. So engine's sitting at 7 or 87, intake temperature is 93. That is the transmission temperature, I believe. It's at 93 volts and then RPM. And we can start it up for you real quick. Make sure we're neutral. Fuel on. Back over to fuel. There we go. So runs. Again, it steers really easy. RP steering wheel, NRG quick disconnect. So steering wheel is a brand new steering wheel. It's just dusty from hanging around the shop. But everything works great. Turn the radiator fans on. You can hear them, but they're not horrible. Trans fan on. Air compressor on. Front locker on. We can turn all our lights on. And then we turn everything off. Kill the fuel, kill that. Turn it off, and then turn the main battery off just because it's gonna be sitting for another day or two, and I'm still welding on it. So, all right. But, oh, also, added a little air up chuck right here. It is a little single compressor, so I wouldn't be airing these suckers up and down on the regular with it, but if you did pop like an inner bead or something like that, you could air up if you had to, with a little air chuck that's just hanging out. But I think that is a good overview of everything that's going on in the shop, or with this buggy here. So again, might run over to Trey's this afternoon after work, pick that plastic up, that way I don't have to work next week on it, if I can get it done tomorrow or Friday. But I think today's Wednesday, I don't know. Either way, if I can get it done completely by this weekend, I think we'll be good. Minus polishing up a few little things. I still have to nut and bolt check the thing again one more time, because I found one of the lower link nuts was backed all the way off. I just never got to it. So built essentially from the ground up. There's going to be some loose stuff. I just have to go over it again and again and again. It has drove around the little lot here a few times. Drives great, turns great. It does kind of buck up and lean a little bit just because the spool in the rear, just one of those things. It leans a little bit, nothing crazy, but once it goes back straight, it's fine. That's just in the parking lot. When it's on the grass, it never bucks up. So I think that's just spool life and lots of flex. But I think that's be it for me. I'm gonna turn these fans back on because I turned them off because you can't hear me talk with them. It is way too hot. See you guys later. Thanks. Bye. Buggy's almost done.